Hello, Renee. How are you doing today?
Hello, Mahia. How are you?
It's a day off in Poland today. It's
Ah,
public holiday,
okay.
but I decided I'm gonna work because I took some additional days off last
I
week to
saw
go
the
to Bulgaria.
pictures.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
that was beautiful.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. And
Yeah.
one of the positive things about kind of a not working for a corporation is that you can
Mhm.
have a wellness Friday every Friday or every other Friday.
Yeah, yeah.
So I could go and enjoy Bulgaria, not when everybody in Poland, because
Mhm.
today is a day off in Poland, public holiday. Then
Uh-huh.
everybody takes tomorrow the bridge day and the whole and
The
Warsaw is
weekend.
completely empty. It's half empty.
Hmm.
It's empty because also there is a, a a national day of the Polish army today.
Mm, okay.
In 1920, there was a big battle called the Battle of the Vistula River, or the Miracle on the Vistula River,
Okay.
when you know just just outside of Warsaw,
Hmm.
the Polish army stopped the Bolshevik army in 1920.
Mm,
That was basically flooding the whole, Poland and aiming to take over Europe and everything. And that
mm-hmm.
was, everybody thought that everything is lost, but there
Mm,
was this miracle or super smart decisions that the Polish army
mhm,
commandants have taken,
mhm.
and finally we pushed back the big Bolshevik army back to their side. So this is one of the two kind of a big celebrations in Poland.
Mm,
It seems
mhm,
to be like we are somehow intertwined with Russia a lot,
mm, mhm.
our history, because the
Okay.
other the other big celebration is because Poland is the only country, the only nation that
Mhm.
has ever occupied Kremlin.
Ah, I did
Yeah,
not know that. Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Hmm.
Poland has established like the ruler of Russia at certain point in time,
Huh.
like forced in the ruler of Russia, the
Wow.
Tsar,
Hmm.
and then the Polish contingent army occupied Kremlin for a couple of years.
Mm,
And it's celebrated in Poland as a big victory, but it's also
mhm.
celebrated in Russia when they finally kicked the Polish
Ah, yeah.
out of Kremlin. But
Gosh,
we are
what
the
a
only ones in a history,
wow.
of the world that have ever occupied Kremlin. But also in
Tumultuous.
1920, this miracle on Vistula River was something that we are very proud of, obviously. And there is a Polish army special day. Yeah.
Mm,
So Warsaw's empty. I had a fantastic vacation. Uh, it's Bulgaria is beautiful.
mm. It looked that way. Yeah, it looked beautiful and green and peaceful. It looked outstanding. Yeah.
In Poland, Bulgaria is always perceived, was by me, it was always perceived. I had this perception, and looks like many people do,
Hmm.
of a luxury Black Sea resort with
Okay.
beautiful beaches and nice kind of hotels and
Hmm.
everything. And that was always the picture of Bulgaria that I had. But this is the first time that I've seen Bulgaria in a completely different point, like from a different perspective. And
Hmm.
I learned so much. I learned that Bulgaria was actually the first Eastern European country established in like 861 or something.
Oh, wow.
And Poland was established in 966. That's when
Hmm.
they say, the Polish king was baptized, and this is when Poland was
Hmm.
officially recognized. So they were like,
Mm.
uh, what, 100 years before us. Huh?
Wow.
Yeah. So was an
Huh.
interesting, beautiful trip, history lesson, and I encourage everyone to go and have a look at and visit Bulgaria, because it's a really beautiful country.
It's funny. You just reminded me. I did a research paper about 10 years ago on the oldest corporation in existence, right? You had to find, the task was to find, you know, companies that had been alive, for the sake of the term of the course, for a long time. And the average lifespan, actually, of a corporation in the US, which was also the comparison point, so they wanted to give us contrast, at the time was 35 years old. And
Average.
on average, yeah. Well, if you think about the fact that so this is part of your area, right? A lot of the companies in the US are SMB organizations or started as SMB companies. And as you hit certain revenue thresholds, you kind of, hit certain challenges. But also, if you don't have a good succession plan in place to hand over the company to the founder, either sells it or closes it down. So the statistics make sense.
Right.
Anyhow, I researched to find what the oldest company that I could find, right, and that we could find, and we used a lot of the academic libraries and whatnot. And it was a brewery in Europe that was established in the 800s. I don't know exactly when in the 800s. I think it was closer to 830-ish. And these monks basically created beer. They brewed their own beer, and to this day, the company still is in existence and brews his own beer. So it was like, that's like insane.
That is insane. I've been
that
in
is insane.
restaurants that are like from the 1400s, okay,
Mm-hmm.
1300s. I remember in Germany, I've been in restaurants like that, but I've never been in something that was created. I mean, I've been in the buildings that were created in,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
even before Christ. If you go to Italy, you basically run into, like the ruins all the time, and the nice kind of restored ruins as well.
Yeah.
If you go to Japan, it's another place where you can see a lot of.
Japan had another, it was another brewery, but that also was very old. What's interesting, right, is that there are wars, like you mentioned, there's all these things that happen through time, but these monasteries, because the Japanese one kind of was similar. It wasn't a monastery because their religious framework was different, but it was similar in that it was tied to religion. So anyhow, it goes back to beer and religion apparently go hand in hand. So I don't really know. I didn't research that part, but it was definitely Asia and Europe have a lot of history when it comes to that. Yeah.
It's funny that you say that. What's the how do you say? The thing that represents a city or a country, like the official
Yeah, the emblem, their
emblem. Yeah.
escudo, which is, oh my god, what's that in English? It's like a shield.
Yeah, like a shield,
It's like
right?
the
That
country shield.
represents
Hmm.
the one that represents Munich. It's
Okay.
actually a monk, and there is an argument whether
Really?
the monk is holding a beer or holding a book.
Oh,
I
my
think it's
money
holding
would
a
be on
beer.
beer. Yeah.
I'm betting on beer because
Hmm.
books were pretty rare, but
Yeah. My money would be on beer for sure. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
uh,
All
so
right. Well,
today,
yes.
yeah, today we are talking about the last level, not the last,
The
the
fifth.
highest level,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
highest, the top, the ultimate level of leadership.
Yeah.
Renee, where's my presentation?
While you
Here is
look
my
up the
presentation.
presentation, there you
Oh,
go.
there
I
you
have it
go.
in the book. There you go. Yes. Pinnacle. Yeah.
The pinnacle leadership, the ultimate leadership,
Hmm.
focus on leaving a lasting legacy. Okay,
Hmm.
which we went through all the 5 layers or levels
Yeah.
of leadership: the position, the permission, production,
Hmm.
people development, and today we'll be talking about the pinnacle leadership, right?
Yes. Yeah. And actually, John also calls it, so there's a little word beneath it, which would be respect. So each one of those, so for example, position is tied to rights, permission to relationships, production to results, people development to reproducing results, and then finally, pinnacle tied to respect. When you are respected, not just by the people that follow you, but by the industry, by your peers, right? The respect kind of goes above and beyond the circle that you influence as your immediate followers.
It's very much aligned with a little kind of a, let me make it bigger, with a little definition that I have put together, which is people
Yeah.
follow you because of who you are and what you represent.
Yeah.
Legacy, influence, impact. This is something that the pinnacle leaders are able to put in place in the
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love it because it in many cases goes beyond the organization, right? I always think of it in terms of there's been a lot of mental health studies that talk about who has the largest influence on a person's mental health. And it is their direct supervisor slash manager slash leader, right? You kind of can go to depending on what it is. And so I always thought of my role as a leader on what is the legacy that I am leaving when I touch someone's lives, and then the organization that is their immediate family, right? Their partner, their children, and then the generations to come. And so it's really beyond, and you can do this no matter if you are managing a gas station, right? Storefront, or if you're managing a large organization. And if you really think about the influence that you have on the lives that you touch and the lasting impact that you're going to have in those lives, right? That's really playing that leadership long game that's going to leave a legacy for many generations to come.
Yes, true, and like it's especially it's super important at the very beginning of your career. I think I remember a lot of bosses that I remember Zbyszek being my boss, my first boss, that actually set me on the right path. I think in
Mm.
terms of how I developed over the years. But there were also other managers that I still believe had a profound impact on
Mhm.
how I have developed over the years. And
Mhm.
then you are absolutely right, Renee, that we as managers, as leaders, we should always remember that what we do, how we behave, and the example that we set for our organization is going to impact not only the professional lives of people, but
Mhm.
also the personal lives, many of the personal decisions they make.
Right.
If you're late for a meeting, uh, somebody you're meeting with, your subordinate, uh,
Mhm.
might be completely readjusting his calendar and his life to be on time for a meeting with you,
Mhm.
because you are obviously an extremely important person. Okay,
Mhm.
by not showing on time,
Yeah.
I think you are not only showing a disrespect, but also impacting like creating a lot of frustration because somebody
Mhm.
made an effort,
Yeah.
tried his best and to be there for you. So I think
Mhm.
examples like that are really telling how important many times you are for the organization that you are leading.
Mhm. Mhm. And you set the tone and you set the pace, right? Um, to me, being on time is a pet peeve, right? And starting meetings on time and ending meetings on time. And of course, there's a few minutes of grace period that you want, especially today. We have so many meetings that are back to back to back to back. And, it's kind of giving people a little bit of grace and space of that transition time between calls. But, you know, you should
Depends
plan
on the
your agenda.
culture as well, Renee.
Mm.
Like I always tell the story about the when I remember in Japan,
It's
everybody
true.
was right on time and
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
showing up on time. It's kind of not respectful. But on the other hand, with my friends in India,
Mhm.
being on time was not necessarily the major requirement. I think being
Yes.
respectful and like maybe a little bit creative and flexible was actually a sign of respect for others.
Mm-hmm.
So I think,
Mm-hmm.
it always depends on the culture. I think
Yeah.
not showing up at all is probably
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
worst
Yeah.
thing you can do
Yeah. Yeah.
without any explanation or message or what name you. And that's something that
Yeah.
I somehow find it very difficult to tolerate. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great frame and a good reminder, right? I'm Puerto Rican. Puerto Ricans are notoriously late for everything, right? You could say that other Hispanic cultures too. And maybe for me, that's why it's such an overly sensitive topic, because I never want it to be um, kind of on that list of things, right? To be late. So you're right. Culture is very, and by the way, right, this is a good example on how by increasing awareness, you can also change. You can change it, right? Because for me, it was very important, and even in my cross cultural roles, right, I let people know right out of the gate, right. I like to start on time and I like to end on time, and this is the reason why, right? And I would say it like from the beginning. I don't believe in being one of those leaders that people have to guess what are the things that are important to you, right? And I would always have a conversation with whether it was a new team or a new employee around, hey, these are the things that for our relationship to be successful, these are the things that I really value. And tell me, by the way, what do you value? How do you like to be rewarded? What do you feel is disrespectful? What do you feel is respectful? Right. And having those conversations up front. And I learned to do that later on. I wish I would have learned to do that earlier in my career. It would have saved me a lot of heartache. But if you don't have a leader that does that for you, you do it for them, right? And tell them these are the things that would help me succeed, right? And being on time for me was one of those. So, yes.
So when I thought about this pinnacle leadership, I started to think, obviously I cannot judge myself whether I
Hmm.
was or I
Yeah.
am a pinnacle
Hmm.
leader, but kind of a based on the
Hmm.
experience and a little bit of research um, and some
Hmm.
other stuff that I've done,
Hmm.
I created a couple of questions that I think
Yes.
are helping will help people, and I was wondering what your opinion will
Hmm.
be, Renee, will help people to test, you
Yeah.
know, are they a pinnacle leader, or where are some of the gaps? Because
Yeah.
it's not about. I think for one organization you can be a pinnacle leader, for another one you don't have to. So
Mhm.
I think there's a couple of questions that I think everybody should ask themselves.
Yeah.
Are you
Mhm.
respected by your team? I think that's, you started with respect, and
Mhm.
it looks like we are aligned
Yes.
again on this element, right?
Hmm.
I think being respected by your organization, if you don't have a respect, then there's something wrong with
Hmm.
you as a boss.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. You agree,
Yeah.
Renee?
Yeah, absolutely. And I get this a lot, especially from early careers, but also from many different people are like, well, Renee, respect is earned. Yes, of course, it's earned. But there are certain things that will establish a baseline of respect over time. It's a little bit like trust, right? Where if you haven't broken my trust, if you haven't done anything to disrespect me, you're going to start at a baseline of 100, right? I immediately I meet you and I respect you as a human being. I respect you because you've been in the industry. I am assuming that you have passion and care for your profession, and you kind of start there, right? And then over time, or with certain behaviors, that can erode if you don't if you don't kind of hold up your end of the bargain. This was very drastic for me when I finished my doctoral degree, right? And I would walk into a room, and the moment that my signature block changed from Renee Pizarro to Dr. Renee Pizarro, right? It There was a huge shift in how people treated me. Not always a good shift, by the way, but there was a huge shift. And people at the very least respected that I had the focus, dedication to do something that requires so much energy and effort, right? And so I think that that's true for other people. And I would say too that it's not just your team; it could be your community, right? It could be
Yes,
other
yes.
groups.
By your community, are you respected? But I think at least within your organization, within your team, you
Oh,
can
yes,
test
as a
this. I
minimum.
guess you
Hmm.
can see and by the team, I typically understand. Renee, I'm not a big fan of direct indirect report. I think
Right, right, right. Yeah.
there is this kind of a like at HP and at HPE there was a
Mm.
reorg every year
Often,
for the last
often. Yes, often.
25 years that I
Yes.
remember that.
Hmm.
So one day you could have people reporting to you in the system. The next day
Yeah.
they might be reporting to somebody
Yeah.
else. The question is, are you still working with them? Are they
Hmm.
still kind of collaborating with you or not? And
Yeah.
the big question is, are you respected by them?
Yeah.
Are they respecting you? And like
Mhm.
it's something that I guess it's a step number one if you want to
Hmm.
assess your level of
Yeah.
leadership.
Yeah. Hmm.
I think the second question that came to my mind was, I need to click here. It's integrity and being a good example.
Hmm.
Um, I I think it's going to be, some people are just simply not a good example to follow.
Hmm.
And are you setting, like, from the discussion that we had a couple of minutes ago, like, are you a good example to follow? Are you setting a right tone? Are you setting the right kind of a type of behaviors that people should implement as well? What are you showing? What kind of a person are you always telling the truth? Are you not escaping from a difficult truths?
Hmm.
This is probably a very important conversation to have with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, this is interesting, right? Because the higher you go in an organization, especially a large organization like the one globally, kind of distributed and large organization, the higher you go, the more you're going to get access to information that maybe not every employee is privy to. And I would often run into people and into situations, and as you said, right, the annual reorgs is a good example where those things need to be treated with a high degree of sensitivity, confidentiality, and integrity. And it's something that's so important because there might be changes in the organization, and there might be people that you have to let go, and people that and you have to keep your team within your team, and you have to make sure that you have high integrity and that you treat the process with high integrity, because you're going to have to do things that are difficult, and still the next day there are members that you have to continue to lead and still have high trust and integrity with those team members. So if you're cagey as a leader and you start kind of being a little shady about how you handle sensitive information, how you handle organizational transitions, how you handle, key information, this is going to cost you, right? In many ways. I don't know what you think about that, but I know, you know, I know some of it resonates with you as well.
This is absolutely true, and I think it goes beyond also the reorg and the knowledge. It also goes beyond. It also touches practice what you preach, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
really, when you say something, make sure. In Poland, we say that the lie has very short legs, which means cannot
I like that.
escape very far. It will
Uh-huh.
catch up. You will be caught one day.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think the best thing is always to tell the truth and be preach, kind of a practice what you preach,
Mhm.
deliver on your promises.
Right.
um, I think one of the things that I always liked to do is when there was a mandatory training, do the mandatory training first, so show the example. If
Mhm.
there is a reduction, or if there is a problem, Don't save money for yourself to pay yourself a bigger
Right.
bonus
Right. Right.
and cut from others. I mean,
Yeah.
to be honest, in the system, I'm sure I'm not revealing any big secrets of those kind of a compensation systems. If I would keep some money away from the bonuses of my team and push it further up, some of this could return to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I
Mm-hmm.
would never ever think about doing something like that
Mm-hmm.
for my organization. I would always kind of make sure that I really act with integrity on every level and everything that I've done. No kind of a shady business with
Yeah.
funding,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
no overstepping the boundaries here and there. So
Yeah.
that was super 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 important, because I knew that whatever I do, first of all, if I do it in hiding, but it's kind of people will
Mm-hmm.
learn about it, either I will lose respect,
Mm-hmm.
or people will start doing the same.
Yeah.
Both things are bad in the long
Mm-hmm.
term. So
Yeah.
life has a very short legs.
Yeah. I like that saying. I like it a lot.
Have you developed any leaders yet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think this is another question that you need to ask yourself. Are
Yeah.
people? I mean, it's a little bit easier when you are moving further up the organization, because you have leaders reporting to you, so
Mm-hmm.
you can be developing leaders. But I think in this context, I'm thinking more about, are you having a succession plan? Are
Mm-hmm.
you developing people to grow out of your organization or grow
Mm-hmm.
above in your organization?
Yeah.
That's going to be a big question. I Here is, I never developed any person to a point when this person went above me. I was always kind
Mm-hmm.
of a stepping higher and higher. But I've seen a
Mm-hmm.
couple of people that took the people management job, thanks to me, that have been kind of a growing and expanding, and that's that was always very rewarding. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's interesting to this topic is one that I love, because I remember I uncovered my love for this topic during the Compact HP merger. I was actually doing a coaching session yesterday, and I was reviewing a career timeline, and it brought back a lot of memories because it was there in I think 2001 when the integration happened, and I remember, at least in the U.S. In the U.S. environment, a lot of people from both sides, a Compact or HP Inc., because at the time there was no HPE. A lot of people would hoard a lot of information and processes, and they wouldn't want to share, and they wouldn't want to, because the perception, this was widespread. This was not one or two people. The perception was that if I'm the only one that knows the process, if I'm the only one that knows what to do, they can't let go. They can't let me go, right? Um, it's actually not true. But I would always then also, those same people, or some of those same people, would be like, why aren't you promoting me? Right. And I'm like, or they would come and complain that somebody else wasn't promoting them. Right. And I said, listen, right. The first thing you need to do when you get a job is find how do you work yourself out of that job. And if you're the only person, if you're leading and engaging in a way where people think that you're the only person that can do that job, you're never going to get promoted. Right? Because people are like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to replace so and so. And that doesn't, you don't have to be a people leader. It's succession in every role, whether it's an individual contributor role or a leadership role. You have to make sure that what you're doing can be easily done and picked up by someone else very quickly. Right now, I'm doing that in the tea shop. Super difficult because for 14 years, I have been kind of the tea lady, and I've been pretty much on my own. My husband does a little bit, but it's been pretty much me. And now my daughter is 17, going on 18. She's showing an interest. She's taking over some things for the tea shop, and I'm not only having to pass the knowledge through training, but I'm finding myself for the first time documenting everything, because if anything were to happen to me, my husband, nobody else knows. Like, Who do we buy the tea from? Who's our distributor? Right? How does she price it? Nope, nobody knows any of that. It's all in my head. So yeah, succession. I'm a fan, and it's important.
Succession planning, it's important, and having those conversations with your people, it's also important, not only with HR.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember, like the discussion with the bosses that have told me very openly, hey, I see you as my successor.
Mm-hmm.
There's no promise that tomorrow you're gonna
Yeah.
succeed me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or that, when I leave, whoever is going to be making the decision will, kind of put you in charge. But there is a good opportunity, there is a good potential for you. I see
Mm-hmm.
the potential in you, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you to move further and up. Tim Peters was the guy who
Mm-hmm.
helped me to develop enormously,
Mm-hmm.
to take over his position when he left HPE, and I'm forever grateful to him
Mm-hmm.
for everything that he has done for me and my development. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, so
It's
development of
also
leaders.
the responsible thing to do for the business, by the way.
Oh yeah.
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 Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Another kind of a question that, if you want to be a pinnacle leader, if it's the impact on the organization, the transformation,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not saying being a project manager that has done a change in the organization. It's
Mm-hmm.
actually inventing a new vision for the organization, seeing like ahead of the curve,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of putting in place solutions, ideas, and concepts
Mm-hmm.
that will help the organization to take a next step, to
Yeah.
go to the next level. Do you have a vision? But it's
Mm-hmm.
not only about having a vision, it's also about being able to implement that vision.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, right? Agree. I go back to Compact HPE, or Compact HP Inc. merger, right? That's a great example of a time where a lot of transformation had to happen. By the way, also when the divestiture of HP Inc. and HPE into the separate companies, those big moments that the organization has to make turns. If you're a small business, when you grow from, let's say, 5 million to 25 million, there's a lot of change that has to be done to transform the way the organization operates and trains and onboard employees and does all sorts of basic or more complex things. Those are big transformational shifts. One of the things I love now that I get to do at Clean Canvas Consulting is work with a lot of SMBs that are in these really transition points where they are, okay, they got to be X amount of dollars success. And we usually use dollars because that has a correlation to complexity of processes, number of people, etc. Right? And you could also use employee size as an example, right? But that's kind of what's fun about that process is being able to see and participate with these leaders that find themselves, these CEOs or these C-suites that find themselves at this like certain point in time of their career, of their company's maturity, and they want to go to the next level. And so yeah.
But I want to be sure that I stress the fact that this transformation, this change, it doesn't only happen. It does not only happen at the C-suite,
Hmm.
in the
Hmm.
organization, the company. Even
Hmm.
you could be a pinnacle leader as a
Yeah.
first-line manager,
Yeah.
because you see that there is a future
Hmm.
direction or a future concept or an evolution in the organization,
Hmm.
in the company, in the market, whatever, and then you start adjusting your organization to,
Yeah.
like, how was it, like, run to where the puck will be, no, not where the
Hmm.
puck is, like the
Yeah.
kind of from the hockey, this
Yeah. 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 The
example,
hockey
right?
puck
So
from, yeah, Wayne
the hockey,
Gretzky. Hmm.
yeah. So that is a kind of a essence of what I'm trying to
Hmm.
capture here, like,
Yeah.
you think about your organization and you constantly think about what's going to happen in a year, 2, 3, 4
Hmm.
years from now, and then you put elements in place to make sure that, and it could be different things, like, one of the ideas that I remember I've done myself, and I think this is maybe one example. Maybe not ideal, but I think it's a good example of being transformative. Whenever I've seen at certain point in time, whenever I've seen that the very mature person would leave, experienced person would leave my organization, then I would be rather hiring people at the very entry level people into the organization, like a new graduates from the schools, from the universities. It would help me to maintain a better cost structure of my organization. And enable maybe some additional investment, like maybe sometimes hiring more people than would leave, and this way expand the team a little bit. But I would also create a couple of opportunities. Opportunity number one would be I could create maybe some people management jobs. Okay, I could enable more senior members of my organization to become the coaches and the mentors of the new of the new employees. Okay, and that would create a structure for the future. Like the people, there'll be some people that will leave or retire or whatever. It will create a continuous kind of a pyramid of replacement and talent pool for the future. And I think it's like a one small example that you can put in your head when thinking about being a transformative leader and trying to prepare your organization for what's to come. I guess that's an answer. Okay, and I think that's the final kind of a message that I have or thought for people, which is, are you leading beyond the organization, your company, your industry? And that's a very, very kind of a profound question that you have to ask yourself if you are running, especially if you're in a big corporation, because it's so easy to stay in your silo and just run your team and just focus on what's best for them, and that's it. And never reach out to other teams, never kind of try to influence and connect and fill the gaps between. And this is how the silos in the big corporations are being formed, because people just focus on the stuff and they run their organization to the ground, maybe impacting some others and not really empowering their own team to do the right thing. So that's kind of a problems that you could create if you are not leading beyond your organization and then beyond your company, reaching out to other companies, and maybe ideally you reach beyond your industry and you are able to influence the lives and the decisions of other organizations, other companies as well.
Yeah, I think about the work that we did with the University of Washington, right? So when you and I partnered to do that work, I think that's a great example of leading beyond our organization, beyond our company, and even beyond our industry. Because the students that were in those courses were students across that they were going to go into the workforce across very different industries. And that was a wonderful opportunity for us to really exercise that muscle. I mean, we had been doing it within our industry and other channels. We were very fortunate, right? We had an ecosystem of alliances and distribution and value-added resellers and all sorts of layers that we were able to practice that skill. But for me, a highlight was really the university work, because we went way beyond our industry, and it was a different type of partnership because we were partnering with an academic institution, and so that was one of the examples that I thought of when you were saying that.
This is one example, but not maybe if for our listeners, not everybody might actually kind of be able to go and build a program with the University of Washington, etc., to teach students. We were very
lucky,
unique in a way, and lucky to do that. But I think very practical recommendations. If you're in your position and you're kind of a manager of your organization, schedule a regular conversation with other teams. Bring
Mhm.
other team members, the representative of other organizations, into your staff meeting,
Mhm.
just to explain what's going on, right?
Mhm.
Just to maintain this
Yeah.
connection. When you're running your staff meeting, invite people from organizations that are working for you and with you. And I'm not
Mm.
only saying, if you're a business leader, invite your finance and HR. That's kind
Yeah,
of a
yeah, yeah.
easy,
Given.
right?
That's a
I'm saying
given. Yeah. Yeah.
reach out to another business unit or another
Mhm.
organization, and both invite them to present in your staff,
Mhm.
invite them to stay in your staff, but also reach out to them and propose that you're going to share your vision and your
Mhm.
ideas with them. That's one very practical example. Another practical example is to go and try to present and participate as a
Mhm.
minimum if you are afraid to go on stage. But if you are not afraid to go on stage and talk about your company, at the
Mhm.
industry events. Okay,
Mhm. Yeah.
that's very important. I feel like going online, like we are doing right now, in a live stream and representing your company, it's an important way of
Vehicle.
influencing
Mhm.
beyond your organization. And by the
Mhm.
way, not every company will like that. And I
Right.
did run across, some of the people that at HPE that were not happy with me speaking, on LinkedIn. But
Mhm.
also, in the meantime, I run into some of the other companies that say, like, hey, my social media team does not allow me to speak.
Mhm.
Bad decision,
Yeah.
totally bad decision.
Yeah.
And finally, like, I think the pinnacle of trying to influence beyond your industry and your organization is any volunteering work that you do,
Mm. Mhm.
because in this way you really go above and beyond and away, sharing your skills and your
Mhm.
capabilities, your experience with people that like otherwise might not even dream of getting an access to this kind of a gift.
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
Many of you, our listeners, when you work for a technology company, for example, 90% of other people out there don't have the knowledge that you have.
Right.
Many people don't understand some of the aspects of technology. I remember, presenting at the university to the SMBs and talking about the digital transformation, what are the benefits of using one or the other technology, and then getting all those questions from people like, like, how do I do this? Oh, this
Mhm.
is such a profound change to the way that I'm going to run my business. And I think that's, like, those kind of a little practical things. Reach out to other organizations, invite them to your staff, to whatever. I even remember inviting people from other organizations into my offsites, right?
Mhm.
Do that, okay? Go beyond your company, industry events, go on stage if you are, kind of
Mhm.
a brave
Comfortable.
enough,
Mhm.
and volunteer, because
Mhm.
this way you're gonna share, and sharing is caring.
Yes. And on that beautiful and happy note, I think we have shared our knowledge for
Oh yeah,
today.
43 minutes. The last
Yes.
from the five, and it's a
Yeah.
little bit longer as well, because I'm gonna go on vacation right now with my
Yeah.
wife and kids, for 2 weeks. Italy, Slovenia, Austria,
Oh,
and
wow.
Hungary. And the last weekend of my vacation, I'm gonna spend with Sherpas of Hope,
Oh,
taking over 100
Sherpas of
people
Hope.
with disabilities, to show them the mountains. And I know I'm gonna be heartbroken, and I'm gonna be not heartbroken. I will be very moved, and I will be very
Right.
encouraged, and I
And
will be very
inspired.
encouraging
Yes,
and
I think you'll be very
inspiring,
inspired. Mhm.
because I think this is one of the. I mean, you've seen the pictures from
Yeah.
Bulgaria, okay?
Mhm.
I want to
Mhm.
show everybody, how it looks live. So,
Yeah.
Sherpas of Hope, thanks for inviting me to this event. I'll definitely post some pictures from the trip
Yeah.
and from the event. So,
Yeah.
hope to
Well,
see you
have a beautiful time off. I will look forward to the pictures online and I'll see you when you get back.
September, first week of September, Rena.
Excellent. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye,
Speak to you
everybody.
later. Bye.